Why do they never go in for me?
Hey music lovers, yes, I am back with my second part of the look at the second wave of Grebo. So here we look at another set of bands, loved them to pieces, and off we go. So another band that I really did get into was, I saw them as an unlisted support band when I went to see the Wonder Stuff on their 8-legged Groove Machine tour. And it took me ages to find out, but then who they actually were, because they sort of came on, mumbled a lot. Don't think they were that very old at the time. And I didn't catch their name, and I worked it out later. I think I read a review the next week in one of the music papers. They were the Senseless Things. More typically indie, still really, really high tempo. Lots of guitars and lots of fun. Brilliant live. So this is I think this is their first proper single. They had released sort of stuff with magazines and stuff before this, but this is on Way Cool Records. There we go, Way Cool. So this is Girlfriend and Standing in the Rain. So you've got Cass, Ben, Morgan and Mark in the band. Came from Twickenham. That's another thing I liked about these bands. They came from places that weren't traditionally hotbeds of rock and roll. They, like Stourbridge, a lot of the early Grebo bands were Leicester, Twickenham. You had other bands from different places. So you had, so these weren't such a t-shirty band, but they certainly played with, and they were lumped in with these other bands. One thing that's remarkable about them, they also got Jamie Hewlett of Gorillaz, well now Gorillaz fame. Then he did Tank Girl, but they got Jamie Hewlett to design their record covers. And what a stylish way of presenting their music. So here we've got, so this is the third single, I guess. We've got Too Much Kissing, back with Trevor. Which is another great band, another great single. So there's a picture of the band actually there. Unfortunately, I don't have their first two albums on vinyl. So their first album was called Postcard to CV. And the second one was called, hang on. First of Too Many, I do believe it was called. First of Too Many. But I do have some of the singles from their more lovely Jamie Hewlett covers. So here we've got Everybody's Gone, and here we've got It at the Del Mar. Great stuff. Actually, the drummer, was it the drummer? Where's the drummer? I think it's the drummer. Cass, the drummer, eventually ended up joining up the Gorillaz live setup until very recently, I think. I don't think he's only just, if he's not still there, then he's only just recently left then. And then the last album? No, there was another one after this, but I do have a copy of their third album. I picked this up much more recently, probably still about 15 years ago, I think. But I picked this up. This is Empire of the Senses, their third album, which has the absolutely brilliant track Homophobic Asshole, which which I think I've talked about in the video before, but it's about the band being down at a pub talking to a mate over a beer and realising through the conversation what an absolute knob end this guy was in the way that he was talking about gay people. And I remember that being a really important single. It didn't become a hit, mainly because I think the record company didn't know how to handle it. It was that, I mean, it's ridiculous now, but I guess they could have called it something else. Could have retitled it and maybe it would have been easier, but it was an important statement to make, I think, and top-notch song, top-notch idea behind it. And it is a rocking tune. But this is fantastic. And they actually had hits off that album. A couple of them. I got both of them on 7-inch. So they had Easy to Smile, which was a top 20. More Jamie Hewlett artwork on lovely pink vinyl. So they'd signed to... what was this one? Oh, Epic. They're on Epic at this point. Left the Indies behind. Easy to Smile. Great song. And they also had Hold It Down. They kind of mellowed a bit at this point. They were sounding a bit more American. So these were released in '92. Because grunge had hit by this point. On lovely orange vinyl. It's very pretty up to the light. Kind of a swirly effect on there. Okay. Yeah, grunge had hit by this point. We'd had Nevermind and everything, and they were sounding more like a bit more like an American band. But still great stuff. So lovely stuff. Now, Census Things, all these bands played live together. They were all playing live together, touring in the back of transit vans, playing goodness knows how many gigs a year. As the Neds said in their thank yous on one of their singles, the Stuffies, the Poppies, and Mega City 4. So this is their debut album on Decoy Records called Transfobo. Basically, fear of transit vans, because they basically spent their life in them. This is more of the same kind of stuff. It's definitely more high tempo, frenetic, indie with lots of guitars. There's no trace of a dance here, unlike the last band I'm going to talk about, or the last couple of bands I'm going to talk about. These were definitely more socially aware lyrically. They weren't they didn't write love songs necessarily. Well, not out and out love songs. More about the effects of things on people's lives. Stresses of everyday life. That's what they were talking about. Nice cartoon there. Quite a nice little label there, Decoy. They were scraped. Even Mega City 4 kind of scraped the top 40 a bit. They were selling records as well. All these bands sold records, and so basically they sold loads and loads of gig tickets. Back when it was not so profitable to tour, but I think they did it so much they made a living that way. I'll talk about them last. Now this next one is a band that got lumped in with the rest of them. They were kind of a little bit separate. They shared the same sort of lyrical concerns as Mega City 4, like less on the funny side, less joking, but still funny, but kind of darkly funny, sardonically funny. So this is Carter, the Unstoppable Sex Machine's first album, 101 Damnations. Puns galore on all of their songs. For least three or four of the first albums. I mean, you've got things like 24 Minutes from Tulse Hill, The Taking of Peckham 1, 2, 3, GI Blues. But they wrote about real life and about pretty dark subjects at times. So, living in inner city London. This lot came from Clapham? This lot, there were only two of them, Jim Bob and Fruit Bat. So they played basically guitar and bass over a load of sampled beats, drum machines and all kinds of stuff, lots of samples. So that dance element was coming back in here. Really quite bleak lyrics at times. Really sad about murder, suicide, nuclear war, soldiers coming back from maimed and broken from war. So yeah, very bleak lyrically record, but quite upbeat music. Big song from here is Sheriff Fat Man, which is all about property, you know, landlords not doing their bit to basically renting out slums. And ripping off people who have very little money. Yeah, this is more about the lyrics than the music probably, but Sheriff Fat Man was another absolute indie staple. I guess along with Defcon 1 and Sheriff Fat Man. What was another one? Which one was the other one I was thinking of? And Kill Your Television. Three of the big indie anthems. They went on to great success. So eventually 1992, their album from 1992, hit number 1, sold shed loads of records, big gigs. And actually a lot of these bands are still kind of playing. Carter have done like umpteen reunion concerts, even though they keep saying it's the last one. Neds have been touring again. Wonder Stuff are touring again at the moment, I think. Census Things have reformed at some point. Poppies reformed, but not really the Poppies, because Clint Mansell won't have anything to do with them anymore, seeing he's a successful Hollywood composer. Now the last band that I'm going to talk about, who weren't really properly considered Grebo, but they had the similar style. They definitely fitted in musically and stylistically with this lot, and they like the same sort of day glow look to them. Definitely really fast. I mean, I listened to their album again this afternoon, and it is really. There is not a single track that is slow on the album. It whizzes by, and it's a really good album. But this band is, I've got a load of their 7-inch singles, is Jesus Jones. They never really had the cred that maybe, well, none of these bands had the cred according to the music press, salted music press. But definitely these never had even a tenth of the cred of, say, the Stuffies or Poppies were always laughed at, or Neds. They were kind of looked down on Food Records, another band on Food. They were really big. Well, they became a part of one of the majors, didn't they? It just became a front for one of the majors, really. But this is their debut single, Info Frico, and they used a lot of really stuttery dance rhythms on their music. Still loads of guitars, lots and lots of samples. There's Italo house piano on some of their tracks. Here's another one, Never Enough, and their third single, Bring It On Down. And then they came out with their first album, Liquidizer, and to be honest, it was a really apt title. You had, basically they were taking all kinds of stuff. So you had indie, you had rock, you had dance, you had not really house, but kind of, wasn't disco, but it was that kind of dance music that was around in the late 80s, early 90s, all mixed up into one big hodgepodge, but it came out sounding really good. Every track on here tells you how many beats per minute it has, and I don't think there's any less than 120 beats per minute. There's one here, 110, but even that's not particularly slow. It says song 13 quite slow, but it isn't really. I think this is a great record. I absolutely, food label, absolutely loved it when I listened to it again. I need to listen to it more. Of course, they went on to have really big success with the single Real, Real, Real in the States, hitting #1. About the same time that EMF hit with Unbelievable, which I talked about EMF in, was it Baggy? But EMF were kind of retrospectively lumped in with this lot as well, with Jesus Jones and the other Grebo bands, which I don't really see. I think they were more kind of a slightly up-tempo Baggy band on their first one, Schubert Dip, and then on their second album, Stigma, started sounding like Nine Inch Nails. And that, if you're going to check out one album from here, check out Stigma, which I don't have on vinyl. Love that, but unbelievable. And their single mixes were amazing. I have a Japanese CD of all their collected single mixes from the time, and they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, fantastic stuff. But there you go. So, from an era long gone, the second wave of Grebo, the more successful stage of Grebo. Right, so that just about wraps this one up. Next up, we're heading into the home stretch, kind of. I've got ideas where this is going, but I've got to go, I'm going back earlier into the 80s, so I can then come forward again to probably the reason that I started this all off, shoegaze. So we are going to hit shoegaze soon. I've got another video to make before we do that. What that's about, you'll have to wait and see. Well, thanks very much if you stuck around to the end. I hope I've piqued your interest in these bands if you've never heard of them before. Probably put most of you off, to be honest. But thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.